In our previous video, we have discussed about the different steps of risk assessment as per ISO 12100. In this particular lecture, we are going to discuss about a definite step which is known as the determination of limits of machine in detail. So, what are the this is that this is the life cycle of ISO 1210, and within this particular life cycle the first step is determination of limits of machine. So in ISO 12100, the limits of the machine is discussed starting from transportation of the machine to assembly of the machine, commissioning of the machine, and then final scrapping of the machine. So it talks about the whole life cycle of the machine from the cradle to grave approach. So the purpose of the standard is not to cover the limits of the machine when it is installed, but how it will be transported, what are the risks in the transportation, what are the risks associated with the assembly, what are the risks associated with the commissioning, and what are the risks associated with the scrapping of the machine. Now, what are the different types of the limits? The limits are mainly classified into four categories: use limit, space limit, time limit, and there are some other limits which are categorized under other limits. These limits are somehow connected with each other. As we go through each of the limits, this may be much more clearer to you. So first limit is use limits. What are the different use limits? So use limit mainly depends on the how the user is interacting with the machine and what are the risks associated with them. What are the different operating modes of the machine? What are the ranges of the machine? Right? So basically, it covers the whole scenarios and thereby put limits on the operation. Okay. By operating mode, we mean to say what are the different mode in which the machine can be operated. Suppose the machine can be operated in the auto mode. The machine can be operated in manual mode. It can be operated also a different mode called semi-automatic mode. And for each of the mode, the risk will be different. So our ultimate purpose is to define the risk. But we need to know the different modes. Otherwise, we will not be able to identify hazards or risk associated with all the different modes. By range of machine, it means that what are the different kind of machine that can be used in a particular industry. For example, in the metal industry, there can be milling machine, there can be turning machine, right? Similarly, there can be machining centers in the semiconductor industry. So there can be different ranges of the machine. Again, the as this particular user limit is related to user, right, or human performance. So the standard also talks about the physical ability of the user. What are the trainings the user having, and whether he or she possesses any machine specific knowledge or not. A person may be very good at milling machine, but his knowledge may be limited in the turning machine, right? So that again is a concern, right? A person without the specific knowledge if he or she operates a particular machine, the risk can be much more higher. All these things are basically covered in the section 5.3.2 in ISO 12100. The next limit is space limit. When every machine operates, it needs certain pace to operate it. So this particular limit talks about that space limit. What are the safety distance? What are the range of movement of different parts of the machine? There need to be sufficient space for the human interaction in the operation and maintenance. Also, the human interaction part should be considered in view of the ergonomics, right? Otherwise, there can be other kind of risk. Then there are power machine interface. Where is that power button? So a machine is in the assembly line, but whether their power button is located somewhere in a different room or different substation or different building altogether. So that is again falls under space limit. And all these things are covered in 5.3.3 of ISO 12100. Next is time limit. So time limit of the machine can be defined in two ways, either the total year or the cycle time. So some machines which are operating uh, and there are some parts which wears and tears with every cycle of operation. Maybe cycle time makes good sense to define the time limit. For others, where you see there is a moderate use of different moving parts, we can define the time limits with respect to the overall time span, which can be given like 20 years. And cycle time will be given like 1 lakh operations or 1 million operations, like that, right? And normally OEM or manufacturer provides the recommended service limit. So all the risk that we analyze should be within that specified time limit. If we cross the time limit, then obviously there are more risk associated with it. And all these time related factors are considered within 5.3.4 of ISO 12100. Next is other limits. Within other limits, it can be the properties of the material that are processed, the level of cleanliness required, environmental conditions. So cleanliness is particularly of importance in food and beverages industries. Also, the environment condition can be different things. It can be maximum or minimum temperature in which the machine can operate, because maximum temperature, because certain part may be or electronics things may not be operable beyond a certain temperature, right? And minimum temperature, some parts or some fluid may be uh, may get frozen at a minimum temperature. Whether the machine will be installed indoor or it will be installed in outdoor, because when the machine will be installed in outdoor, it will be exposed to sunlight, it will be exposed to rain, it will be exposed to dust. So whether the machine is capable of withstanding all these external uh, external things or not, whether the machine is okay to be installed in a dry or humid condition, right? So in the case of the humid, there will be some water vapor that is present in the atmosphere that may ingress into your compartment, particularly for the electronics component. If in a humid atmosphere, if the water goes into this electronic component, it may cause the short circuit of the component and that's damage the component and may result in failure of the machine. Again, dust is a problem, right? Uh, Electronics component, normal mechanical component also, there are multiple different issues uh, in a dusty environment. So overall, these are all the different limits of the machine. So if we recap, we will find that ISO 12100 first step of the risk assessment is to define limits with respect to space, time, user, interface, and some other limits like environmental, cleanliness, etc. These limits gives you an idea what is the environment, or what are the different modes, or what are the time and space within which the machine is intended to be operated, and the risk should be assessed within that user limit only. So if a machine is designed to be used in indoor and in a maximum temperature of 30 degrees centigrade, if the same machine we put it in outside in the sunlight, we cannot expect it to work in the similar fashion, or the risk of the machine will get changed. So always the risk assessment should be done within the boundary of the limits of the machine. If during the risk assessment you find that the limit is not set correctly, then we may need to set the limit again. But we need to do the risk assessment always within the boundary of these limits.